Okay, so heading into the Christmas break, we have to go over the news. Because we had ourselves some actual news, some actual updates, some things that Rick Tocchet went out there and said, and things that Patrik Allvin did, as you can see right here. But we also have Friedman. We also have Seravalli. We've got a bunch of stuff to go over when it comes to the Canucks and their entire trade situation that we've all been speculating about and keeping up to date with. But before we get into all the rumors, all the stuff that didn't happen, let's talk about all the stuff that did happen and all the other stuff that was said. So, last night, after the Vancouver Canucks defeated the San Jose Sharks with a marvelous 2-goal performance out of Elias Pettersson, GM Patrik Allvin later in that same evening announced that forwards Linus Karlsson, Phil DiGiuseppe, and Max Sasson have been assigned to the Abbotsford Canucks. Whether or not this means anything changes with the logistics of things, because I'm going to assume that Karlsson, DiGiuseppe, and Sasson are probably on some sort of a plane back to wherever it is they're coming from. I think most hockey players are. YVR is going to be packed today and tomorrow, I guess. But what this does for the Vancouver Canucks and their cap is it allows them to do what they've been doing all season. Taking a bunch of guys and paying them less over the next 3 days, which will allow the Canucks to save up on some cap space. Now, this has been the entire process throughout the entire year. I think if you were to take some sort of a chart and map out however many transactions, AHL, NHL transactions, each of the NHL teams have done, Vancouver would probably be near the top, if not way above everybody else. So, Patrik Allvin, go out there, do your thing. Kind of sucks for Karlsson, DiGiuseppe, and Max Sasson because they're going to be making 10 times less the amount of money in the AHL. At least that's what I assume, right? Assuming they're all on two-way contracts, which I'm pretty sure they are. Anyways, Patrik Allvin making an announcement on these moves is not the only thing we had heard from the Vancouver Canucks, because Rick Tocchet went out there and spoke out about Elias Pettersson, saying that he got banged up in the second period. He goes on to say that he doesn't think that it's too bad. But ultimately, this is one of these things where you kind of have to thank your lucky stars that the Canucks are not going to be playing until Saturday, because Elias Pettersson taking what is a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 4-day break-ish, that is probably very much necessary in this scenario here, because, look, I'm not saying I don't really trust Rick Tocchet, but Tocchet also said that Demko was day-to-day, so let's take this with a grain of salt. I don't trust Tocchet when he speaks on injuries. That's one of the things as well that I think many Canucks fans have sort of started to bleed into, this frame of thought that says that Tocchet never really reveals the true details about injuries. Yeah, we'll wait and see. You know, I mean, got banged up is a pretty vague way to describe an injury, but at the very least, Petey did play in the third period, even though it was only for one shift. He still got some game time. So ultimately, we'll see on Saturday whether or not this is a bigger thing. There was an entire issue about Quinn Hughes also potentially being held out of the Canucks lineup yesterday. He was a game time decision. Of course, we know he played. He played. You know he'll play. He'll play on crutches. But ultimately, Quinn Hughes, it's unfortunate, but I think Quinn Hughes missing time is a lot more impactful to the Vancouver Canucks than Elias Pettersson missing time. Because, I don't want to sound too tongue-in-cheek here, but Elias Pettersson had gone missing even on the ice for a good chunk of this season and last season, and the Canucks were still finding ways to get some form of results. Without Quinn Hughes, everything will probably fall apart. So that guy is my heart winner, absolutely, for sure. It's him and Kaprizov, 1 and 2. Anyways, let's go out there and talk about some rumors, because we had ourselves some extra talk posted by some of the same Twitter accounts, Buck Foston and Taj, that describe some things said by Seravalli, describe some things said by Elliotte Friedman. Friedman opened up the podcast on 32 Thoughts yesterday by saying that he's been given a 1-month suspension for talking about the Canucks. He cannot talk about the Canucks for a month till January 23rd. The Department of 32 Thoughts suspends Elliotte Friedman 1 month till January 23rd from discussing any matter related to the Vancouver Canucks. And I think for this comment, he was mostly referring to trade ideas because Elliotte Friedman did go out there and talk a lot more about the Canucks in the same podcast episode. I think if I was in Vancouver, I would say nobody's going anywhere. And I would also say, I think the Canucks did an unbelievable job this weekend. Hughes went out there and he delivered. I'm pretty sure Friedman is referring in particular to Hughes' commentary about the JT Miller and Elias Pettersson situation, how he spoke to the media about how, you don't have to like your teammates, there are always going to be sort of disagreements, but these guys are professionals, they have to act like professionals, they can be professionals, and Hughes did a really good job with that. They had Miller and Pettersson on different power plays. Someone said to me they wouldn't be surprised if that was a talk-at attempt to show them, isn't this crazy? Do you guys see how ridiculous this all is? Yes. And I kind of don't get the messaging here. I understand what Friedman is saying. Oh yeah, maybe it was Tocchet's idea to split these guys up. Not because, Pettersson hates Miller or whatever, they need to get separated. No, it's not really that. It's more so Rick Tocchet trying to make a statement. But I don't really understand what the statement is about. Tocchet is trying to tell other people throughout the NHL, or he's trying to show off, this situation in Vancouver is ridiculous, and he has them split up on different units to illustrate that. I don't really understand the dynamics of that overall thought. But ultimately, this is what Friedman went out there and spoke about. Buck Foston has some pretty good stuff always when it comes to the Canucks and their updates. Taj usually does too, although I will say Taj is a lot more, let's just say steered towards a certain direction when it comes to talking about the Vancouver Canucks. Rick Dhaliwal and Donnie and Dolly also had a really interesting segment from yesterday. The rest of the NHL is watching. A team told me this morning that it's unbelievable what is happening in Vancouver. And then the same video segment is linked over here. Another team told me this morning it's all you hear about, it's what's happening in Vancouver. Farhan Lalji mentions he has heard about conversations between the Canucks and the Sabres, but with a different combination of players than Elliotte Friedman's rumor, which was Pettersson, Byram, Dylan Cousins. So there might still be some sort of a trade idea that's floating around there involving Vancouver and involving the Buffalo Sabres. This is an interesting thought by Rob Williams, and it kind of goes into what we were talking about earlier. The most interesting part of the Miller-Pettersson drama has been Tocchet's role in it. He split them up on the power play, which made it impossible to ignore. Then he called out the media for not requesting to speak to both of them. It's almost like he wanted to shine a light on it. Now, I don't want to get all too conspiracy on y'all, but it is interesting to acknowledge that Rick Tocchet has not been shying away from letting this conversation and this controversy breathe and have its course in the Vancouver media and the NHL media as a whole. It's a very distinct thing, and it's not like the Canucks have been hiding it necessarily. So, very interesting to note that Rick Tocchet is involved here. Here are a few of the other notes that were posted about Quinn Hughes. Reports a few weeks ago that he was banged up, but this sounds like he picked up a second injury last week. It's the Sharks, and they don't play again until Saturday. No reason why Quinn Hughes should play. And it's kind of funny because Quinn Hughes did play, and he picked up 2 assists, so obviously this tweet was from before the game happened, so let's just go out there and continue. Seravalli spoke about this on Canucks Central yesterday as well. Even in the hours leading up to the freeze, the Canucks were making calls, and they wanted to try to make something happen, but they just didn't get to a place where they thought it was going to be imminent. So, the roster freeze, I think even Rick Dhaliwal spoke about this too on Sportsnet in his weekly appearance on Halford and Bruff, that he was kind of surprised that everybody was sort of clamoring around this roster freeze as a sort of trade deadline pseudo-quasi event, when really the roster freeze isn't usually a big hyped up moment in the NHL season. It's just the roster freeze. So we'll go out there and expand more on Canucks trades when everybody comes back and when the roster freeze is lifted. But ultimately, Seravalli did say that the Canucks were up there to the wire trying to make something happen. And if you go out there and read some of the other thoughts over here, Seravalli was also on 650 earlier this morning, saying the same thing. Canucks were making trade calls the night before the trade freeze, trying to get something done. And now you had yourselves Elliot Wolf and Thomas Drance getting into a heated discussion as to whom it is the Canucks could target on the back end. So, yeah. Nothing says Christmas Eve more than Drance yelling at Eastern media for saying that Adam Fox was better than Quinn Hughes. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about all this stuff that was talked about with the Vancouver Canucks, from the actual roster moves to all of the rumors about stuff and whether or not we could have seen some sort of a trade. Who knows if Buffalo's getting involved there? Who knows if Patrick Allvin is going to be talking for Bowen Byram or something like that? Maybe another defenseman like Owen Power if you wanted to stay in Buffalo. But for now, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about all this Canucks stuff, from the roster moves to PD to the trade or rumors, etc. I hope you enjoyed this video. 99, and bye. Bye.